The Palm Springs real estate market has completely flipped in the last 60 days. What was once a seller's paradise has transformed into a buyer's opportunity, with homes now selling at an average of 2.5% below asking price. In this video, I'm breaking down the latest surprising data that shows inventory up 10.9%, while sales have dropped compared to January. If you're considering buying or selling in Palm Springs this spring, these numbers will significantly impact your strategy. Hi. Neal here, your Living in Palm Springs Realtor with the March 2025 Palm Springs Real Estate Market Update. The latest market data from February 2025 reveals a significant shift that sellers and buyers need to pay attention to. For the first time since 2019, Palm Springs has officially entered a buyer's market. This represents a complete reversal from what we've seen in recent years when sellers held all the cards, often receiving multiple offers and selling properties way above asking price. Let's look at what the numbers tell us. While 11.1% of the homes did sell above list price last month, this marks a 2.8% decrease compared to 1 year ago in February 2024. This decline confirms what we've been sensing here on the ground, that the market is cooling considerably. One of the most telling indicators is the month of sales ratio, which now stands at 5.7 months. Compare this to just 3.8 months at this time last year, and you can see we've crossed the traditional threshold that separates a seller's market from a buyer's market. When inventory takes longer than 6 months to sell, though, we're firmly in a buyer's market territory, and we're quickly approaching that mark. The inventory situation paints an even clearer picture. February 2025 closed with 152 homes available for sale in Palm Springs, representing a 10.9% jump from January's 137 listings. But here's where it gets interesting. While the inventory did climb, the number of homes actually selling dropped dramatically. Price trends also support this market cooling. The median price for detached homes across the Coachella Valley now sits at $700,000. Now, that's only $15,000 higher than it was in February 2024, suggesting that prices are stabilizing after years of aggressive growth. When we adjust for inflation, this essentially represents flat pricing year over year. What's driving this shift beyond just the raw inventory and the sales numbers? Well, several factors are at play, including economic uncertainty, changing migration patterns post-pandemic, and, as we'll discuss shortly, the critical role of mortgage rates. The most compelling evidence of this buyer's market transformation comes from the discount data. Properties in Palm Springs are now selling at an average 2.5% below the asking price. This discount represents a dramatic shift from the premium pricing environment that we've seen since 2020. For buyers, this means having actual negotiating power for the first time in many years. For a $700,000 home, that discount translates to a $17,500 in savings, significant leverage that simply didn't exist just a few months ago. The March 2025 current price of an average-sized home in Palm Springs is $1,234,574. The current price of an average-sized Palm Springs condo is $455,750. While buyer discounts offer immediate savings, there's a more powerful economic factor controlling the market's destiny. Mortgage rates currently sit at 6.6% as of this recording, down from 7% last year. But this slight decrease makes a surprising reality. Most Palm Springs homeowners are trapped in their properties by rates half of what today's buyers face. The mortgage rate story began with a roller coaster ride. After starting 2024 with rates hovering just around 6%, the market experienced significant volatility, ultimately climbing back above 7% by the year's end. Now, we've seen a modest retreat to 6.6%. Now, this seemingly small shift actually represents thousands of dollars in buying power for potential homeowners. What's particularly interesting is how dramatically these rate calculations impact buyer behavior in Palm Springs. Each 0.5% increase in mortgage rates effectively strips away $50,000 from a buyer's purchasing power. This single metric explains much of the market cooling that we're seeing. A buyer approved for a $750,000 home when rates were 6% might now only qualify for $700,000 at 6.5%, drastically changing their options in this market. Perhaps the most consequential factor in our current market is what economists call the lock-in effect. Thousands of Palm Springs homeowners secured mortgage rates between 2.5% and 4% during the pandemic years. This has created a scenario where selling and repurchasing would potentially mean doubling their monthly payments, even for a similar priced home. The result? These homeowners are effectively locked into their properties, restricting inventory that would normally be coming onto the market during a typical market cycle. Despite the modest price stabilization we've observed, affordability remains a significant challenge. Monthly payments for buyers today remain approximately 30% higher than pre-pandemic levels. This affordability gap explains why we're seeing houses sit longer on the market and why buyer discounts have become more common. These buyer-friendly conditions are not uniform across the entire Coachella Valley. When we zoom in city by city, the data tells a more complex story, one where neighboring communities exhibit dramatically different market behaviors despite their close proximity. Let's look at Rancho Mirage, which presents a fascinating contradiction. With an 8.2% months of sales ratio, it's technically deeper in a buyer's market territory than Palm Springs is. This means a Rancho Mirage seller faces even more competition from other listings. Yet, paradoxically, homes in Rancho Mirage are not necessarily lingering on the market. They're just selling in 41 days on average. Selling timelines do vary significantly throughout the valley. Desert Hot Springs currently holds the distinction of having the longest median selling time at 59 days. The Desert Hot Springs area can afford to be particularly selective. Palm Springs falls somewhere in the middle at 46 days, while Bermuda Dunes is moving slightly faster at 42 days. So when it comes to price negotiations, the contrast is even more striking. Palm Springs buyers are securing the valley's deepest discounts, averaging about 3.8% below the asking price. But if you drive just a short distance down to Coachella, you'll find that sellers are holding firm with essentially zero discounts. This geographical divide provides challenges and opportunities depending on exactly where you're looking to buy or sell. Buyer activity also shows clear geographical preferences. Palm Desert currently leads in transaction volume with 128 unit sales, followed by Palm Springs with 111 and La Quinta with 98. Now these numbers suggest buyers are gravitating towards these communities, likely due to factors like amenities, location, and even perhaps relative value compared to some of the other desert cities. The market shift has affected different price segments unequally as well. Properties in the $300,000 to $399,000 range have experienced the steepest sales decline, suggesting either reduced inventory in this once active segment or a shift in buyer preferences. Interestingly, the luxury market above $1 million has maintained relatively stability, indicating wealthy buyers remain active despite the broader market cooling. The stability in the luxury market despite broader cooling reveals an important truth about the Palm Springs real estate market. Conditions are never permanent. What if I told you that despite today's buyer advantages, several economic signals suggest we're already moving toward the next phase of our local market cycle? The timing of your real estate decisions in 2025 could be more critical than you think. Real estate markets operate in predictable cycles, typically following patterns that repeat every 3 to 5 years. In Palm Springs specifically, these cycles have been relatively consistent, with the last significant buyer's market ending around 2019 before the pandemic-fueled boom took hold. Now, this historical pattern suggests that we may already be midway through the current buyer-friendly environment. What makes this moment particularly interesting is the convergence of several forward-looking indicators. The Coachella Valley is projected to experience a 15% population increase by 2030. Now that's a significant shift that will create sustained housing demand throughout the region. At the same time, new construction remains about 40% below pre-pandemic levels, setting up a potential supply crunch as the population growth materializes. This imbalance between future supply represents a ticking clock on the current market conditions. So when combined with the projected mortgage rate changes, we can start to see a timeline forming. What makes these indicators particularly compelling is their collective influence. When mortgage rates begin to decline while inventory simultaneously shrinks due to seasonal patterns, we often see a rapid acceleration in market tempo. Add in the long-term population growth against limited new construction, and the conditions for a market shift become increasingly likely. Economic forecasts suggest that while current conditions certainly favor buyers, the anticipated decline in mortgage rates, coupled with these other factors, could also trigger a market rebalancing by late 2025. If these projections hold true, we may see the pendulum begin to swing back toward a more balanced market in about 12 to 18 months, with the potential return to a seller's market by 2026. So what does all this mean for you? Well, if you're buying in Palm Springs, the timing couldn't be better. Getting pre-approved for a mortgage is critical in this market. It strengthens your position and also prepares you to act quickly when the right time appears. One recent buyer secured a Palm Springs home with a remarkable 10% discount off the asking price, and that's showing what's possible with smart negotiation in today's market. For sellers, the landscape has shifted dramatically. Success now requires realistic pricing from the start. Overpriced homes are simply sitting longer in this environment. The data shows flexibility in negotiations is essential. While the market has cooled, well-prepared sellers who adapt to current conditions can still achieve successful sales. Remember, real estate is cyclical, and the current buyer's market presents different opportunities depending on which side of the transaction you're on. Buying or selling can be stressful. So if you're curious about specific areas or neighborhoods in the Palm Springs, Coachella Valley area, let's schedule a quick Zoom call to discuss your needs. It's free and there's no obligation. Just click on the link in the description below. Now, watch this next video all about living here in the Palm Springs area.